Hey everyone, welcome back to FCK Ingenious Reviews. We're ready to do our next review here today. We're going to do The Penguin, the hit TV show that just finished a couple of weeks ago. I just got around to finishing it, and I initially wasn't going to watch it because I'm not really into the superhero genre, especially now. When I was a kid, I really enjoyed it, but as they became more popular, as films, I kind of dropped out. The one exception was the Batman series, especially the Dark Knight trilogy. That's just, I think we all love it. That trilogy, it's the standard for all superhero films. So I always have had a soft spot for Batman. I loved, of course, the original Batman, the cheeseball stuff with Adam West and I think, was it Burt Ward? I forget Robin's name. But yeah, I love that. Batman the Animated Series, oh man, I watched that so much when I was younger. So point is, I'm a big Batman fan, so I was like, okay, I remember the Penguin, Danny DeVito, Burgess Meredith back in the day. So yeah, let's give this, a look, see how it is. Another thing that really got me to want to watch this was reading that this wasn't really a prototypical superhero setup. This was, of course, it's focused on the Penguin, but it wasn't really shot as a superhero story. It was more set up as a gangster mafia style story, which, hey, I love those. I love all the mafia stories. The Sopranos is my favorite TV show of all time. If you've watched any of the previous videos, you know that. So, when I read this, I was like, all right, let's give this a try and see how it is. And then I jumped in, and I did not regret it one bit. I just want to give everyone a heads up. We're going to have lots of spoilers in this. If you haven't watched this yet, wait to watch this review before, I ruin it for you. I don't want to do that. So any of our reviews are full of spoilers from the beginning. So if you haven't watched, make sure you watch it and then come back. But continuing on, let's straight up give this a score, shall we? I thought this was fantastic. It was a really good show. I would give it an 8 out of 10, star-wise. If we're giving it like a grade, like in school, I would say about an A-. I thought it was extremely well acted. The job that Colin Farrell did in this is just absolutely amazing. You look at him, and it's like, my God, is that really him? Underneath all that makeup and the prosthetics and what. But despite being under so much makeup and the prosthetics, you still saw him be able to emote so much. You were able to see the character of the Penguin within him. So I have to give him a lot of credit. He did a fantastic job. Kristen Milioti, she was just absolutely fantastic as Sophia. The job she did as Sophia Falcone was just unbelievable. I really had not watched her much. I've seen her kind of a few things, but never anything like, very serious. And to see the performance she put on, especially, of course, in Cent'anni, the episode that was almost all about her, was just fantastic. It was so gripping, so well acted. She's so expressive with her eyes. She has those big, beautiful eyes, and she does such a great job of utilizing them to show what her character is feeling, to show, what she's feeling inside. I was so impressed with her, and I would love to see her in additional, shows and films. And of course, the other star was the young man, Renzi Feliz. He played everyone's beloved character. I think he was the one unquestioned hero of the show, Vic, and it was a great job done by that young man. I think he really let us feel like Vic was our friend that we wanted to see do well, the young man that we want to go see conquer the world, even though he was kind of falling into the wrong side of things, falling in with the bad guys. We still wanted to see him succeed and do well. and I thought he did just a fantastic job with that too. So the acting, by all the main characters and down the list was just fantastic. This is a brilliantly acted series. I would say the writing was also pretty good. It was a little weak at times. I would say what prevented the show from being a 10 out of 10, an A+ for me, was some of the highest level of writing it wasn't there. They spoon-fed the audience a little bit too much, in my opinion, as far as, hey, this is how you should feel about what's happening with this character or with this development. The best shows, they don't have to spoon feed you anything. You feel it, you get it, and I can return back to a lot of the best shows of all time. Of course, Sopranos or The Wire or any of those, right? It was just a little weak in that regard, I would have to say, this show. But overall, the writing, kept you engaged. It moved along the plot well, and I enjoyed watching every single episode. I didn't think there was a bad episode. Of course, with any show you have some that are a little better than others, but I felt like every episode I enjoyed watching, and that's an accomplishment in itself. As I alluded to earlier, this is a gangster show. It's not so much a prototypical superhero show or film, and they show Oz Cobb, the Penguin, as a psychopath, particularly a psychopath with an Oedipus complex. And of course, as I was saying, Colin Farrell just did an amazing job with this. And I felt like they really did take a lot from The Sopranos for the character of Oz. The look, I felt like they really leaned into kind of giving Oz that Tony Soprano look, that large build, that kind of, he could be sweet at times, but then he would just flip around and just be completely, psychotic, dangerous. You're like, whoa, where did this come from all of a sudden? That's what James Gandolfini did so well with Tony Soprano. And I feel like you could tell that the creators of the show wanted to kind of go with that same feeling of Tony, and especially in his interactions with his mother, Oz and his interactions with his mother, and Tony's with his interactions with his mother. I think they really did take a lot from Tony. If you remember, in one session of The Sopranos, in one episode of The Sopranos, he's in a session with Dr. Melfi, and she suggests he might have an Oedipal complex, right? That he wants to do certain things with his mother. I won't, use the exact quote Tony said, but it feels like they definitely pulled directly from that scene particularly, and that's how they laid out the relationship between Oz and his mother in the same way. You could maybe even argue that Oz's mother, she might even have borderline personality disorder herself, just like Tony's mother was thought to by Dr. Melfi. So I think there's a lot of inspiration there, and I think there's a lot of commonality there. And hey, if you're taking inspiration from The Sopranos, you're going to the right source at least. You're not you're not taking bad material. It's an interesting question. What was the root of Oz's, psychotic behavior? Was he just born like that, or did his mother's own issues kind of help put him on that pathway, a la Tony and Livia? You can see that Frances, Oz's mother, she's not exactly the most upstanding citizen either. She seems like she cavorted with some local gangsters herself. She was in with them, so you can assume that she was not the most morally upright person. And then you could see her also baby Oz a little bit, more than her other sons, I think, and maybe that kind of just pushed him a little bit more to to be needy, to need that extra attention from his mother. Of course, him having his disability, you can naturally understand him wanting that extra bit of affection from his mother, from his parent. As his brothers did not, have any disability, he would probably wanted to compensate with that extra affection. So you can understand that, but was there some shortcoming of Francis's that came up within Oz? Just like we saw with Livia, her borderline personality disorder definitely shaped Tony into the criminal he would become. Even though it was never suggested that Tony himself had borderline, personality disorder in the show. His sister Janice, it was strongly suggested that she kind of took after Livia, but Tony himself didn't seem to have it. He just kind of, I guess he would be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. For the record, there's no diagnosis of psychopath or whatever in the medical community. In psychiatry, it's called antisocial personality disorder. And there's a book called the DSM, I believe it's up to the 5th edition now, that has the official diagnoses for all the psychiatric diseases. But getting back on track, Oz definitely has antisocial personality disorder, and as I was alluding to earlier, it can be very disconcerting seeing him as this, sometimes sweet boy who, is struggling with his disability, being different from other young boys, like his brothers. But then all of a sudden he turns into a complete monster at the drop of a hat. And they lean into this from the very beginning scenes of the show, right? Where, Oz kind of just murders Sophia's brother in cold blood, really. I mean, he definitely didn't have to kill him. His insecurities, I think, kind of just like pushed him that way to do it. But it was definitely not, something that you would say was called for, especially, in the world of crime. But that impulsive behavior, is a large part of Oz's character. He couldn't stop himself from doing things. And it manifested, in confrontations throughout the show, and oftentimes putting, his new young protege, Vic, in tight spots. And through Vic, we kind of see, Oz as the complete character. Vic is our moral compass, throughout the show. He starts off as completely innocent, as a survivor of a horrific tragedy. He's lost his family. And we kind of slowly see him descend into this world of crime. You can suggest that maybe it's no fault of his own, or you can also suggest that maybe it's completely his choice that he fell into this, that he chose this world. We see in that episode where his old kind of girlfriend shows up and she says, hey, let's run away together to California, and he chooses Oz instead of her. You can argue both ways. That's what makes the character fascinating, and that particular episode fascinating. That he had no choice, that this was the only way out of a dire situation that he saw for himself. That having power through like a man, having power like a man that Oz has, was his only path forward, and he had no choice but to take that. But on the other hand, you could argue he could have just ran away and gone with his new girlfriend and started a new life, that Oz would have left him alone. And that's an interesting, I guess, debate that you can think about. Would Oz have let him go if he had just ran away? I don't think Oz would have chased him down and tried to track him down. I think he would have let him go. But you can just as easily argue that, yeah, Oz is, of course, a complete psychopath. He would have never let Vic, get away. So it's an interesting argument. I think you can go both ways on that. But from the very beginning, we kind of know Vic's fate. We see him, of course, delving deeper into the world of crime. But in the end, it was pretty much telegraphed that it would be Oz that would, kill Vic. And that kind of sense of doom was always overhanging every scene of theirs, in my opinion. And as I was saying earlier, that is like kind of one of the weaknesses of the writing of the show. Just that it lacks that little bit of trust in the audience to kind of hey, we can kind of see where this relationship is going. We don't have to kind of spell it out from the beginning and drop hints that that Oz will end up killing Vic. They could have done just a little bit better with the subtlety, I think, but it was no less painful or tragic to actually see that scene unfold. I think that broke all of our hearts, and I think pretty much everyone agreed that's the most heartbreaking part of the show. Now, Sophia, in my opinion, was the most interesting character on the show. There was a lot of depth there with her character. I think she was the best written character. They definitely gave some thought on how they wanted to construct her and her background. So I have to give the writers a lot of credit with Sophia's character. I think they did a great job. And truth be told, I think, she should have been the title character of the show. I would have loved a Sophia Falcone show even more than, the Penguin show, I think, if they had completely centered everything around her and she was like our point of view character all along. As I was saying, Kristen Milioti just did a fantastic job with the character. Of course, Centane was just such a brilliant window into what the character was and what she turned out to be. She was just an innocent gangster's child. She was just innocent to the entire world that her father was kind of a part of. Maybe she knew a little something was going on, of course, but I'm sure she never thought, oh, it's that bad. Again, let's harken back to The Sopranos. We saw how Meadow had that relationship with Tony, right? She knew, especially at the beginning, that her dad, was doing bad things. That he's in the mafia. That episode, I think it was the third episode of the show. I think it was called College, where he goes up to Maine with Meadow, and they have that entire kind of scene with him and her, and her questioning him about his about his work life and what he does. I think you see a lot of that with Sophia and her father, kind of. That's another parallel they made with The Sopranos. But we also saw with Meadow that she was not so innocent, especially at the beginning of the show. Sophia, I think she was more innocent of her father's crimes, of his lifestyle, and it made it so heartbreaking to see that her father was the one who betrayed her, that destroyed her life completely. He could have just kind of let things go, brush him under the rug, but he chose to destroy his daughter's life. And you want to talk about a psychopath? Wow. He was something else. Falcone Sr. is something else. So, not exactly going to be winning any awards for Father of the Year anytime soon. But it was so heartbreaking to see Sophia's character go into Arkham and be destroyed bit by bit, and she had to kind of reconstruct her sense of self, from scratch. And unfortunately, that involved her turning into a psychopath herself, a criminal herself. She murders, I believe her cellmate, it was her cellmate she murders. And it's just a heartbreaking fall from grace. And the nice thing that they did with her character, at least, is you could still see those shreds of humanity within her, especially, you know, in the scenes with her niece. Yeah, she kills everyone else in her family, but, you know, she chooses to at least let her niece live. But she also lets her kind of waste away in a orphanage, and she lets her get lost in that world because she feels that she'll be better off without, you know, the Falcone name, heritage, whatever. So it's a choice, but boy, that's a rough choice. You can argue, I guess, either way, whether, you know, leaving her in that orphanage was right or wrong, that maybe she'll get adopted into a good family and then she'll be able to start a new life. But boy, that's a hard thing to justify that she did to that child. She might have just completely destroyed her life. Now, if she hadn't done what she did, if she never killed her family to begin with, her mother and father, then maybe she would have grown up just to be under Sophia, and that's you know, definitely what the writers were hinting at. That, you know, Sophia might have actually saved her from another cruel and unjust life, you know, just like her own. But she'll never get that chance to find out, that little girl. So it's a really heartbreaking story altogether. And Sophia's character, I feel, was another one where you knew kind of her fate from, you know, early on, especially once you saw, you know, Centani, and when she was in Arkham, you're like, okay, yeah, by the end of the show, she's going to end up back here. That's going to be her arc. And of course, that's what happened. It was still a great arc. I wish they hadn't telegraphed it so much, made it so obvious that, yeah, this is what's going to happen to her in the end. But I still enjoyed her arc, I think, more than any other characters in this show. She was just absolutely fantastic. And, you know, I hear they might make a second season and continue the show. And if they do, they have to heavily feature her, because to me, she's the best character out of the show and the most interesting. And there's a lot you can do with her. So whatever next steps they decide to take, I really hope it involves Kristen Milioti and, you know, her character of Sophia. Altogether, now, this is a fantastic show. I recommend, you know, anybody watch it. You know, even if you're not a comic book person like myself, it's a great crime show. It's a great gangster show. The acting is tremendous. The writing is pretty good overall. I'm pretty satisfied with it. I enjoyed watching every episode. I was looking forward to next week's episode every single time. So I think this is definitely a worthwhile watch, and I'm glad I decided to watch this in the end, because, yeah, at first I was like, yeah, it's not going to be very good, probably. But, you know, the more I learned about it, the more interesting it did seem, and the payoff was worth it. It was tremendous. Definitely give this a watch. Hopefully they'll make, you know, some additional seasons, and we can continue the story, especially Sophia's. And let's see where it goes. Thank you for watching this episode of FCK Ingenious Reviews. Till the next one, thank you so much.